I am not famous. Fame. You know, back in my day, when somebody was famous, they didn't have to tell y'all that they were famous. When I first turned on the camera today, I was going to talk about Pauly Shore. For God's sake, why would I talk about Pauly Shore, you might be asking? I have a story about the time that I got dissed by Pauly Shore. That's probably not surprising to any of you who know Pauly Shore, or even those of you who just know who he is. I was working at the world-famous Comedy Store, the La Jolla location, and, you know, as with anybody working there at the Comedy Store, we were all comedians, but which meant we were working for minimum wage, working the door, you know, answering the phones, taking out the trash, doing whatever we had to do just to be able to eat while we were pursuing our stand-up comedy dreams. And if you don't know, or even if you do know, the Comedy Store is owned by Mitzi Shore, who is the mother of Pauly Shore. So Pauly would come down from Hollywood to the La Jolla location to grace us with his presence, and he was a dick. He disrespected us. He would come to get the key to the condo, because there's always this comedy condo that the comedians stay at, and I say always. I mean, at certain clubs, they will have a condo that they own, that the owner owns, and the comedians will stay at the condo. Man, I'm spending way too much time on this already. But even something as simple as just Pauly arriving in La Jolla and coming into the Comedy Store early in the day to get the key to the condo, he was just a dick. He couldn't even ask us for the key in a nice way. So, the story. One of the things that I did at the Comedy Store is I worked in the corner. They had a piano and a soundboard and a light board, and I worked the piano, sound, and lights, which basically just meant, you know, I'd do a little riff like, hey, come to the stage, we're a world-famous Comedy Store. You've seen them on The Tonight Show and on a bunch of other stuff. Please welcome this guy. You know, I would do that thing, right? And sometimes comedians would have a cassette. Yeah, a cassette, where they'd have certain intro music that they wanted to have played while they came up, right? Simple enough process. I go, hey, come to the stage, you've seen on The Tonight Show and all that stuff, please welcome so-and-so. Boom, start the music playing, person walks up the stage, they get to the microphone, cut the music, right? Okay, so Pauly had a tape like that, and he came over to me, you know, in the afternoon. I was in the corner just playing the piano, and he came over and handed me his tape, and he goes, okay, so what I want you to do is that when you introduce me, after you introduce me, I want you to play the music like really loud, and then when I get to the mic, don't cut the music when I get to the mic. Wait until I turn and look at you. Do you think you can handle that? Now, no, I did not kick his ass. I also did not have a witty comeback, as I recall. I was just, in my mind, either at the time or shortly thereafter, thinking, you know, I went to USC. I got a math degree. I was a software engineer, and I quit all of that. Well, I didn't quit the degree. I still had the degree, but I quit my software engineering job to work for minimum wage for your fucking mom, and you're giving me shit? One thing that I get into a lot with myself is I think, you know, I need to have more interesting stories. There should be a point to this story, or something funny about it, or something. Like, for instance, what if I were famous and I did want to tell that story on the Craig Ferguson show or something? That's not really much of a story, is it? Maybe, kind of interesting, although the moral of the story is, you know, Pauly Shore's a dick. You think you can handle that? One of the things, unfortunately, that's unique about Pauly Shore in my life is that he's the first person that I saw become famous. Well, you know, I guess that's not totally true, because when I was at USC, a lot of my teammates went on to the NFL. But the last part of that process I saw from a distance, because I wasn't hanging out with these guys, with my former USC teammates when they became NFL guys. But with Pauly Shore, I saw him become famous. I saw him go from a punk kid whose mom owned the Comedy Store, and he would come down to La Jolla with his attitude and go up and work on his act. I saw him go from that, where nobody was coming to see him, he was just getting up there and being a weasel, to boom, like almost literally overnight, people waiting in line around the block to see this guy. So that was just a strange thing to see, to be in the belly of the beast, watching a guy going from, three-dimensional non-famous douchebag to two-dimensional famous douchebag. I've been close to famous people. I played football at USC. I had teammates that went on to be famous. I pursued stand-up comedy for a number of years, and so I met people who either were famous at the time or who later became famous. And then I had these coffee house years where I saw some musicians who later went on to be famous. But through all of that, Pauly Shore does hold a special place in my heart as the most famous douchebag that's ever directly disrespected me. I'd like to cleanse my palate with Tommy Davidson, because right around the time, I guess not long after I saw Pauly Shore pop, as we in the business say, I saw Tommy Davidson popped. He was on a show called In Living Color, and he went from being a non-famous, really nice guy to a famous nice guy. So I enjoyed that. See, it's not all sour grapes. I don't have any animosity towards Pauly Shore because he became famous. I have animosity towards Pauly Shore because he treated me like shit. So maybe fame isn't the issue here, is it? How do you treat people? Are you a douchebag or are you a nice person? Because you know what? In the end, that's what people are going to remember about you.